conversation about chronic pain is really interesting, and it's a field that is really quickly growing in terms of what we're learning about chronic pain. And we're learning more and more around the science of chronic pain and the management that goes along with that as well. And without getting into a lot of the sort of cellular pathways and physiology that we can at some point, but it doesn't necessarily serve the practical purpose. So we want to stay a little bigger picture today in terms of supporting you with tools that can help with what you're managing. And you know, one thing that's really important first to recognize when we're thinking about chronic pain is that most often it tends to be that there is some sort of stall in our body's healing process. And that can happen for a number of reasons. It can be because there are things coming into our bodies, or things that we are doing with our bodies that are not serving a healthy purpose. That could be, you know, eating more inflammatory foods, not sleeping enough, moving in a way that isn't necessarily supportive for what we're experiencing. And sometimes it can also be an absence of things in our bodies that help to support that healing process going forward. And so we need to find that balance. And oftentimes when we get that balance between taking out the things that aren't serving us and putting in the things that are, we can sort of reset that cycle. Because essentially what's happening when we're in a state of chronic pain is that there is a message between our brain and our body, wherever we're experiencing that pain, that's playing on repeat. And for some reason, that message is stalled out and it just keeps going back and forth and back and forth. And we need to do something to push the reset button. Yeah. And what's really responsible for that messaging pathway and responsible for sort of the underlying network of all the other signals and messages in our bodies is our nervous system. And this is why at Radiant Effect we are so passionate about nervous system health, is because it is really what lays that foundation and that base for health. And whether that's chronic pain, whether that's digestive issues, insomnia, stress management, it's all intertwined. And what we have both experienced, and I'll let Meg, of course, speak, tell you her story. But what I know we have both experienced is that the state of our nervous system has directly impacted the way that we are experiencing pain or discomfort in our bodies. I know personally for me, I have managed a number of injuries over the past year and a half. I've been managing a chronic back condition, and I know I can feel for myself, despite my best efforts of supporting my health through movement, through different therapies. I know that when I am at a higher, more activated state in my nervous system, that might be that we're launching a business, or things are really busy in the clinic where I'm sort of rushing and going between many different things and seeing lots of people. When I'm in that heightened state, I'm in more pain. And I experience more pain. It doesn't mean that physiologically anything is different in my back, but it means that the messages that are being relayed become heightened, or they're bold in my body. And that plays a huge role. And so what we really want to do is try to come back to that idea of how do we restore our health through supporting our nervous system.
So what's kind of interesting, Rachel's speaking to her story a bit around living with pain, and you know, just in the last week or so, she was struggling a bit, and so I made her a meditation for pain. And Radiant Effect members, this is coming into your library very soon, and it's a tool that I have personally used, and that's why I created it for her, because as we know, those wires from our brain to our body are very strong, and it's like this superhighway of information that keeps going, and we keep laying down that same path, and in order to actually interrupt it, we have to create a new loop, essentially. And so this meditation is around actually doing that and starting to build a new neural pathway, and a little bit of a kind of a trick, a sneaky trick that I've learned in order to help kind of hack the nervous system, if you will. And it makes a big difference, because we know that the way that we wire really does affect our entire body. And so bringing ourselves back to that state, that homeostasis kind of place, is essential for reducing pain that we're experiencing. So there's a lot of signals that are coming from our brain into our body, but there's also signals that are coming from our body to our brain. In particular, I'm speaking about the vagus nerve. And our vagus nerve is actually kind of the superhighway that goes the opposite direction, that actually takes all of the information that our body is experiencing and brings it back up to the brain so that we can tune into what's going on for ourselves. And one of the ways that we can really work with our vagus nerve is to actually start to understand our nervous system a little bit better and understand the different states that we might be experiencing. So Rachel spoke to being in activation, and what we're really speaking about is the sympathetic nervous system, or that fight-flight response. And so when we are activated in that response, we need to work through that or discharge that kind of energy in order to come back to homeostasis. There are other states that we live in, and when we are in really good, what we would call vagal tone, referring back to that vagus nerve and that information from the body to the brain, we sometimes call this a social state, or like an engaged state, where we can be with others, we can be present, we can learn new information, and this is the place where our body can actually be active but also relaxed. And so within Radiant Effect, we have all kinds of tools that we use to help you move through these states of sympathetic or even shut down. There's lots that we have to offer in this conversation of how to actually come back to a place where we can be engaged and relaxed.
Yeah. The other piece I would add about pain, if that's something that you're experiencing, is not to ignore pain. Pain is very much there to send a message, and it can tell us that there is damage, it can tell us that there's threat, it can tell us that something is out of balance, and we need to listen to that. And where we move into that chronic state of pain is often when the body again gets stuck. When that pathway, that highway of information going up and down, gets stuck. And so we need that interrupter. Meditation, which was beautiful, and all of you members who will have this coming to your library, savor this meditation. It's really beautiful, and it really helped what I was experiencing. Something like that can support. Mindset is also something that is incredibly important, because what we say in our brains, the message comes down to our bodies, and what we perceive as happening in our bodies reinforces that message up to our brains. And so we get into this perpetual loop of reinforcing a state of pain.
I would say too, just adding on to that, is that what I often see is that those pain signals can often create a fear cycle as well, and particularly fear of movement, and studies have shown time and again that moving with pain is actually more beneficial than not moving at all. And that doesn't mean that when we're in pain that we should go and do a super hike and for 6 hours, or go run on the treadmill at our highest rate for an hour. What it does mean is that pain doesn't necessarily always indicate damage, and that we can move with pain. As someone living with an autoimmune disease, that is kind of a perpetual reality for me, and I know that I have a loop now through my mind that knows it's okay to move with pain. And it means that I have to tune in and listen really mindfully around what kind of movement can I move with while in pain, right? So there is actually distinction in that, and we can create a little bit of clarity for ourselves. What actually is nourishing me, changing that feedback loop, and also allowing me to move through it to create a new superhighway from the body back up to the brain that says, hey, it's okay to move. It's okay to move, and I'm okay. Yeah.
And it's so neat to see, like when you said that, science is showing that moving is better than not. This is a real paradigm shift.
Yeah.
This is not the way that it was, 20 years ago, where it was you're in pain, you stop doing everything you're doing, you are on bed rest. We're learning so much. And I have to say that this is just my opinion, that as the world becomes more stressed out, nervous systems become more heightened and more activated, we are seeing more people living with chronic pain as a result, because the nervous system is getting trapped in that cycle. And so, again, it goes into that deeper layer of healing the nervous system to support your pain experience. And it also means that sometimes bigger shifts need to occur in order to support that overall experience. If your back is creating a chronic experience for you, we can't just separate your back out. No, it's all connected. So we need to continue to come back to that.
So there is your Friday tip for you. We would love to hear from you of how this information landed for you. If you have questions, we're here for it. Definitely drop them in the comments below. We will respond to all of them. And if you are curious to learn more about your nervous system health, February 28th, we are starting our 6-week nervous system restoration course called Recalibrate. This is a powerful course where you will learn all about this and how your nervous system works, how to work with it, how to move your body with that intention, how to dig in a little deeper into your own personal journey. It's a really life-changing course. It has actually humbled us to hear how it has changed people's lives. We know the information is potent, and we want to share it with you. So this is your invitation. If you're waiting for a sign, this is your sign. Come and join us. We are ready to link arms with you and help you on your path to rewire your pain story.
We'll drop the info for the course in the text of this, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.
Take good care, everyone.